This podcast is a Radio Mike original production. Head to radiomike.com.au to find out more. This episode of 20th Century Boy is brought to you by Radio Mike on Patreon and the TCB Overflow podcast. If you finish 20th Century Boy and you want to hear more from me, head to patreon.com/Radio Mike, and for as little as $1 a month, get the Overflow podcast, an extra podcast every single week. And the Pat and Mike Show, where producer Pat and I talk everything behind the scenes of 20th Century Boy. The Patreon is overflowing with content. We'll see you there.
Oh, how did you hear about us?
People are talking.
Show your move. Good news, everyone. Don't you when you see onions?
Welcome to 20th Century Boy. Don't know why I did that, still questioning it. This is my name. Sorry, this is the worst intro to the podcast so far. My name is R.M. Williams. And this here, well, sister, this here be the inside of my mind. Don't know why I did the intro like that this week. Let me know if you liked it. A bit of a variation. Long-term listeners will know if this is the first episode of the podcast you're listening to. Probably a lot of confusion going on in your little mind right now, but that's what this podcast's all about, just confusing you. You kind of hearing things of the podcast and being like, what the heck? What's this bloody podcast all about? I don't know anything this Mike guy's talking about. He's just talking about confusing me, and now I'm confused, and yeah. Anyway, guys. I'm recording this at 6:30 p.m. on Monday night after putting out a message saying that the podcast won't be out till Thursday. It probably will be out Wednesday now, so I might have to do another update to negate the original update. Based on that intro, you might assume that I'm high right now, which frankly couldn't be further from the truth. So if you wanted to report me and be like, Radio Mike, that Radio Mike guy did his podcast, 20th Century Boy, while high in his room, don't, because I'm not. And why would I be? That'd be a very silly thing to do. Guys, I don't know. If you're new to the podcast, this is 20th Century Boy, a podcast by this guy, Radio Mike, a young writer and producer from here in Melbourne, Australia, just trying to make his way through life. At the moment, I'm very anxious. If you listen to the Patreon bonus episode, The Overflow, you'll understand that there's a lot of shit going on in my life, which may explain why I'm high right now. I'm joking, I'm not high. But I'm not. Now everyone's going to think I actually am high. I'm not high. I wouldn't even be able to get high right now because I don't. I went to see this. I wasn't planning on talking about this. I went to see Ruben Solo's Comedy Fest show. I've talked about it before. It was really funny. But in his show, he has this bit, sorry to spoil it, Ruben, but he has this bit about how he's never done drugs, but it's not that it's not a conscious choice because he doesn't want to do drugs. He's just never done drugs because he has no idea where to get drugs, and it's a really funny bit. And that's also me as well. Like, I'm not high. Don't worry, guys. That was all a joke. Please don't think I'm high, because I'm definitely not. I wouldn't know how to get high. Anyway... If this is the first step of this podcast you're listening to, you must be so fucking confused right now. One thing I wanted to say, just at the top of the pod, is that, and I mention this because this is always running. It never stops. I don't mention it every week, but it is always running. This is Australia's only winnable podcast, and I believe it's the world's only winnable podcast. Fact check. Yep, fact checked it. It is the world's only winnable podcast. And the way you win this podcast... If you're new to the show, welcome, by the way. That's the welcome sound effect. I've never actually acknowledged that sound effect on air. Sorry, this is going to be I'm a bit scrambled at the moment, which is why I sound like I'm high, but I'm not. I've never actually... Everyone who's long-term listener of this show will recognize this sound effect. But have you noticed that I have never acknowledged that sound effect on air? It's been here since episode 1 of the show 4 years ago, but I've never acknowledged it. Whenever I mention someone's name, I just play this sound effect. And I'm going to continue doing it, but I just thought, all right, we're 150 or whatever episodes into the show. I might as well acknowledge that on air, because I'm sure you guys notice it. Anyway, the way you win this show is by doing a 360 on the spot wherever you are right now. Just do it. Do your 360. If you happen to see me in your vicinity right now, you've won the podcast, come up to me. At any point that you're listening, come up to me right now. Now, a few weeks ago, I thought someone was about to win the podcast, right? Because I got on a train here near my house at Kensington Station here in Melbourne. And I got on the train, I had my AirPods in, I was going into the city. Immediately as I got on the train, this guy called Mark, welcome to the family, Radio Mark, pulled out his AirPods that he was wearing and he's like, Radio Mike. And then I was like, yeah. And I genuinely thought he was about to say, I'm listening to the podcast and I've won the podcast. But he did say, but he didn't. He said, I listened to your podcast. And I was like, oh, cool. And then we chatted all the way to the city. Great guy. Mark, if you're listening, that was fun. Good to meet you. So you can win the podcast. Let me know if you've won. No one obviously have won so far. And when you do win, the podcast ends forever. Of course, I do want to do the obligatory Patreon plug, patreon.com/RadioMike for 2 bonus podcasts. If you love listening to me, get the Overflow podcast, which is up right now on this podcast, and I am going to tell you guys on this week's Overflow exactly why I'm really stressed and anxious and in my head right now. I'm going to tell you everything going on in my personal life that I would never tell on this podcast. That's on the Overflow for $1 a month. That's $12 a year or 3 coffees a year. If you would buy me 3 coffees a year, please jump on the Patreon. If you think every episode of this podcast and the time it takes to make it is worth $1 a month, please subscribe at the $12 tier. You get that and the Pat and Mike show where me and legendary producer Pat talk about behind the scenes of the show. I have a lot I want to talk about. There's a lot of things I have to talk about on this week's show, guys. And the first thing that I want to talk about is whatever the fuck was happening with the Queen over the weekend.
Your Majesty. Mummy.
Yes, Your Majesty, Mummy. I don't know. Okay, can I be the first person to say this? I don't care about the Queen or any royal family member. I can't be the only one. I'm sure there are people listening who do not have any care at all about, because obviously Australia is part of the Commonwealth and we are our overruling leader, or however it works, is the Queen, is Queen Elizabeth II. And I think my thing with like the royal family is I find it remarkable that it's 2022 and we literally still have a queen and we have like a little prince and a little princesses and stuff. I just think it's so weird. I think it's kind of disturbing that we still have royalty, especially because we know that the royal family is founded on like power abuse and like just having excessive amounts of money, and it was all just, Queen Elizabeth, okay, cool, mate, you're the queen, but it's like, you're only the queen because you're the queen. No one alive was like, she should be the queen. And I know it's not the same as when they used to have kings and queens where it was like, they literally did rule. But I guess I just find it funny that we have a queen and that we like worship the queen, and because even Prince George the young, I think he's 3rd in line for the throne now, the little kid, Prince George. Mate, you fell out of the right vagina. No, you're not special in any way. We're just pretending you are. Everything in life is make-believe. And I think as a person, I've spoken on this podcast before about my disdain for like, I guess it's like, it's not necessarily unearned authority, but it's just like, I personally subscribe to this idea in my life that everything in life that we do as people is made up. It's all make-believe. None of your fancy job titles are real. Like, not every single thing that happens is made up. Money is made up. This podcast is made up. Everything you value is made up. Nothing matters. It's all just like make-believe, and we all pretend that like these people, like, who cares? Like, I honestly think, and I mean, it'll never happen, but if I met the Queen, I just think it's crazy that like it would be an expectation, I think, that I would bow to the Queen if I ever met her. Like, I'd bow down. It's like, who are you? Okay, cool, you're the Queen. I'm Mike. G'day, how are ya? Let's chat. Like, I'm not gonna, I don't want to treat anyone like they're superior to me because they're the self-appointed Queen. I think that's ridiculous. Anyway, that's not even what I'm here to talk about. What I am here to talk about is they had this big festival or whatever this thing was for the Queen's, I think it's 70 years of service being the Queen. 70 years. She's been the Queen for 70 years. Well done. Good work, Lizzie the second. We're all very happy for you, hoping you, you can't get a promotion from being the queen. So, if you don't retire soon, congratulations. Well done on all of it. And look, I think deep down the queen knows that it's made up. I think she knows that it's all, and she's like, oh, well, I got a pretty good life out of this. I'm the fucking queen. This is awesome. But then I think about they had this big concert at the palace and all the media were looking at the three kids of Prince, whatever his name is, Harry's brother, William. Prince William's children. He's got 3 kids. And there are all these media headlines at this big concert with all these amazing performances for the Queen. Congratulations, Queen, again. That, Prince Louis and Princess, whatever her name is, misbehaving and mucking around during the ceremony. People pointing the finger at Prince Mary or Prince Kate, I think it is. Prince Kate, pointing the finger at Prince Kate for bad parenting. And I gotta put this out there that, and it's like the media thinks that these ordinary kids who have made up titles of prince and princess in this make-believe land that is the British monarchy, right? That these kids are supposed to be somehow above the standards of a normal kid. Because here's something that I should say. If I was 8 years old, like these kids, and my mum said to me, hey, we're going to your great-grandma's 70th anniversary of her working in her job. It's a big deal. She's really well-liked in her workplace, so you've got to behave. I could not think of anything worse than doing that. I repeat, there is nothing I want to do less than go to my great-grandmother's 70-year anniversary of her working in a job. And my parents would be like, yeah, but everyone really likes her, and it's obviously it's a very big job, and she's been doing it for a long time. We really think you got to be on your best behavior. As if I'm going to be on my best behavior. I don't care. I don't care if I'm a prince. I don't want to sit here and watch all these artists that I don't know celebrate my great-grandma. I don't care. I want to sit at home and play Switch. I just thought it was so funny seeing the media be like, Prince Louis, out of line. Like, as if why would we hold this kid with the made-up title of prince to a higher standard than any other kid? That sounds like the boringest thing in the world, going to that thing for your great-grandmother, the Queen. And what I love is just that it's all pretend. I think the royal family is the biggest example of how we as humans just pretend. Still to this day in 2022, we just pretend. Like, yep, you're the Queen. Cool. I'm Galactic President Superstar McAwesomeville. I don't get it. And I don't know why it upsets me this much, but it does. Because I think we're beyond the need for a queen. We're just beyond it. I actually don't get all these people who are waving flags and cannot believe they're seeing the Queen. Oh my God. You can tell. I'm sorry. You can tell the Queen's sick of being the Queen. The Queen is literally like, I've done this for 70 years. Do I really have to keep doing this for the rest of my life? And the answer is sadly yes. And that's when you look at Prince Harry and Meghan defecting, because I genuinely do think they were kind of like, this sucks. I don't want to be part of the royal family. I don't care about this shit. I'm never going to be king. Let's just live our own lives. That'll probably be more fun. And I kind of agree with that. I think if I was in the royal family, I'd be like, guys, this is kind of lame. Why are we all pretending grandma's awesome? We don't think about this a lot, and I think this is the common denominator. The Queen farts. You don't think about that much, but, we all look at the Queen and she's very kind and very elegant and, she's royalty and she sits there all proper and, pretends she's having a good time doing all this shit she probably doesn't want to do. At the end of the day, she's farting like the rest of us. The Queen's doing big old stinky farts at night. She's covering them up as well. So don't ever think... never think anyone is superior to you, because at the end of the day, even the Queen farts. And I think that's if there's one message I want to get through to you guys for this episode of the podcast, it's that the Queen farts And I think that the metaphor is we're all imperfect, right? We're all imperfect. The Queen farts. It's a good metaphor. Anyway, I just wanted to rant about this a little bit. Lots and lots of developments this week. And I actually thought this thing now, at the level that it has gotten to, deserved an opening sting. So it's time for me to do this. Pull out the red carpet because it's Mike's big year of premieres. That's right. Thank you, Mike. Pre-recorded Mike in that segment opener. It is Mike's big year of premieres. This whole year, this all started when I was complaining that I did not get an invite. I did not cop an invite to what even was it? What did I not? Oh, the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness premiere. Finally got invited to our first premiere a few weeks ago where we went to the Bob's Burgers movie premiere. But guys, do I have some updates for you? Because June really is, and I maintain this, June at least is definitely Mike's big month of premieres, because I am happy to confirm every week for the rest of June, I will be going to a premiere. That is right. Every week for the rest of June, I am going to a premiere. We did it, ladies and gentlemen of the podcast. We did it. Couldn't have done it without your help. I used the statistics of listeners of this show to swindle my way into a few of these. It all kicks off this Wednesday at Melbourne Central, where I am going to the premiere of Jurassic World Dominion. Cannot wait. Jurassic World Dominion. Admittedly, had only, up until last week, seen Jurassic Park Original and Jurassic World, the Chris Pratt one. Then I watched Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, and now I'm going to try and watch Jurassic Park 2 and 3 before I get to Jurassic World Dominion. Might not happen, don't care, because it's more about the premiere. I don't care about completing the whole series, just want to go to this premiere. Red carpets, dinosaurs. I don't think they have real dinosaurs, they might. But you will be seeing lots of photos of me in front of promo material on the red carpet, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I've officially become an influencer. It's the real deal now. Week after that, right, just when you thought it couldn't get any better, a movie that I have talked about extensively on this podcast in the past, I get an email from Disney this week. Bam. I am invited at the Jam Factory next Wednesday to the premiere of the Buzz Lightyear movie Lightyear from Pixar. Yes, I will be there. I cannot wait for this movie. I've talked about it a lot on this podcast. I'm going to the premiere. Red carpets, astronauts, possibly not real astronauts, but they will be there. And this is going to be huge. This is the movie, I've talked about it before. It's the movie it's the Buzz Lightyear origin story that explains how Buzz Lightyear became a toy in the Toy Story world. It's hideously meta, but I love it and cannot wait to see it. But hold your horses. Are we in space? Yes, we are. Because the week after that, I am going, and this is my favorite of the bunch. Remember that I said space. I am going to the premiere of the finale episode in IMAX of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Another one from Disney. Thank you. Disney are really my biggest supporters here at the moment. Huge to be invited by Disney, because Obi-Wan Kenobi there's been 3 episodes so far. It is so good, and they're screening episodes 5 and 6, the final 2 eps, in IMAX, which is going to look so good, and I cannot wait, because yeah, it's one of my favorite shows so far. Shout out to the moment in episode 3, mild spoilers for something that everyone knew was going to happen in this series, but the moment in which Obi-Wan Kenobi and Darth Vader, aka Anakin Skywalker, meet for the first time after their final duel on Mustafar, where Anakin was burnt alive before becoming a cyborg. That was one of the best Star Wars fights ever.
What have you become?
I am what you made me.
Oh, and the fact that they've got James Earl Jones voicing Darth Vader again, and everything about this show. I talked about it extensively last week, but this is exactly what I wanted it to be so far. I know a lot of people see it. It seems to be controversial amongst the fandom, but everything in the Star Wars universe is controversial in the fandom. I think this is an amazing series, and it gets me so excited. Apparently they're doing a second season, so that is absolutely awesome. I'll talk a little bit more about TV stuff coming up, but if you haven't watched Obi-Wan and you're a fan of if you grew up on the Star Wars prequels, I would say this is essential essential viewing. It is amazing. On another note, I did go, you might have seen on my Instagram, more influencer stuff, because I am an influencer these days, guys. I don't have time for fucking around. I'm an influencer, right? I'm a real life influencer. Grilled. Tried the new Demogorgon burger from Grilled. Stranger Things, of course. They have partnered with Netflix Australia for a Stranger Things burger, and I got to try it. Look, admittedly, Grilled, and I hate to do this, and Grilled, you are my number one supporter, as well as Disney now, but I didn't think the burger was that good. And my whole partnership with Grilled, to be fair, Grilled, my whole partnership with you did start by me saying I hate all your burgers. Now we're the best of friends. But at the time, I didn't enjoy the Demogorgon burger. Did have some of that healthy fried chicken, and that was good. Got another message from Domino's Pizza, by the way. They asked for my best postage address because they wanted to send something out to me. No idea what it is, but I expect updates on that. Whatever Domino's Pizza is sending me, I will be talking about it on this podcast. Even though I would never, no offense, Domino's. And this is kind of how the Grilled thing started. But Domino's Pizza, look, wasn't planning on doing this, but Domino's, no offense, I would never order your pizza. Domino's, you and Pizza Hut know you're the budget pizza company that makes cheap American-style pizza. And look, I have Italian heritage. I'm not eating that shit. Sorry, Domino's. Like, if you give me vouchers, sure, I will use them. I'll talk about your brand. But, when it comes to pizza, give me a nice Italian pizza or like a clay oven style pizza. That'd be good. But really, I don't like Domino's or Pizza Hut. The pizza there's shit. It's cheap. It's for like high school parties and uni students to have a pizza while they're studying. It's not good pizza. But Domino's, love you guys so much. Thanks for sending me out whatever you're sending me. Love you guys. Cannot speak more highly about your stuff. I do want to talk one thing, because I've been watching a lot of TV, as I mentioned last week, and I finished up Better Call Saul Season 6, Part 1. Amazing stuff. Don't understand why so many shows are doing, like Stranger Things is doing Season 4, Volume 1 and Season 4, Volume 2. Guys, stop kidding yourselves. It's Season 4 and 5. Don't lie. We all know what you're doing. Better Call Saul's doing that with Season 6. And mid-season finale of that. Huge, amazing. If you know, you know. Also started watching another show that I know a lot of people who watch this show who listen to this show, probably like. It's called The Boys. Obsessed with this show. It is so refreshing. It's a superhero drama, and it is about, it's basically like, what if superheroes were real? And what would it really be like? Because it's kind of straying away from the kind of Marvel and Batman and stuff kind of vibes, and being like, superheroes have so much power that they would essentially be above the law and control everything. And that's kind of what this show is about. The superheroes are essentially criminals that are able to cover up all their crimes and have no moral compass. And there's a group of people called the Boys who are trying to bring down the superheroes. Funnily enough, I read this book last year that my brother got me for Christmas called Steelheart, which is essentially the exact same concept, but it is totally unrelated to The Boys. But I think it's a really refreshing take on the superhero genre, because I think obviously superheroes are so oversaturated at the moment, and it is just your Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff, which is very, like, I love it, but it is very cut, copy, paste style superhero movie. And often it isn't dealing with it kind of started to deal with the real world repercussions of the heroism. Like, in all of the battles that the Avengers have, thousands of people are being killed in, buildings being destroyed haphazardly in the fights and stuff. And you always think about the cost of that versus the cost of not having the superheroes. And, MCU started dealing with that a little bit in Civil War and everything, but The Boys does it really well. Another show back in the day that did the superhero fiction thing really uniquely was Misfits, it's an amazing British TV show in which 5, they're young offenders on community service orders and they get struck by lightning and they all get superpowers. But the whole point of that show was like, if people did get superpowers based on their personalities or traits, which is often how superpowers work. Like, for example, in The Incredibles, Dash is like very ADD and very like hyperactive, and his superpower is he can run really fast. And then Violet is very like shy and reserved, and her power is she can turn invisible. So there's always that kind of character trait, superpower kind of thing. And Misfits kind of turns that into its head, where it's like their power, generally a lot of the powers are really bad and showing kind of why it wouldn't be practical to have these powers. For example, and probably the funniest in inverted commas is one of the main girls who I guess is a sexually liberated woman who, you know, has a lot of casual sex and stuff. And her superpower that she gets is anyone who makes physical contact with her instantly wants to have sex with her, which obviously creates a lot of issues for her because she can't have physical contact with anyone. That show was amazing, especially the first couple seasons. And then it sort of started to fall off the radar a bit after that. I would love at some point to talk more extensively about that show, but that's not what I wanted to talk about here. What I really wanted to talk about was Stranger Things. The thing about Stranger Things that I've realized, and I think it's a problem for the kids in Stranger Things, for the characters in Stranger Things, and I think, and I haven't finished the season yet, so I don't know if this solution to the problem has been put into practice by them by the end of the season. It is quite possible. No spoilers here, by the way. This is just a suggestion from me about Stranger Things, because if you've watched all the seasons of Stranger Things, you will notice a pattern. And the pattern is that all of the evil fantasy villains in the Dungeons and Dragons games that the kids play in Stranger Things eventually come to life and start killing people in the town they live in. Now, admittedly, this is a terrible thing and I'm not trying to victim blame anyone, but do you think the kids in Stranger Things have ever considered maybe just stopping playing Dungeons and Dragons, perhaps? I just think it's really funny because if you were playing a video game, for example, and all of the villains in the game eventually became real and started murdering your friends and other local townspeople, acquaintances, colleagues, etc., wouldn't you be like, oh, maybe it's to do with the game and we should stop? Do you think you might do that? Because to me it kind of feels like the characters in the show Stranger Things, the main boys in Stranger Things are like, oh, I mean, every time we play Dungeons and Dragons, one of the characters in our games, the Demogorgon, now in season 4 it's Vecna, one of the villain characters who we always describe as like the utmost evil, destructive forces in this fantasy world. Every time we play, one of these characters ends up coming to life and killing people. Do you think it's to do with the game, and should we stop playing immediately? And at least as a control, if we stop playing, do you think the fictional fantasy characters will stop coming to life and killing people? Because, you know, not to draw parallels, guys, like I'm speaking as if I'm one of the Stranger Things characters. Not to draw parallels, but it does feel like we describe a character from Dungeons and Dragons, our Dungeons and Dragons campaign. It feels like we're describing them, and then they come to life and kill some of our friends. So, I thought it would be a good idea if we stop doing that. Just stop playing D&D, kids in Stranger Things. It's stupid. You know, it's like, there's no irony. I don't know how there is irony, because the viewers, we can see it from a mile away. We're watching them describe, yeah, that's Bliss Block. He's the most evil dragon in the whole of Fantasyland. He's a level 99. He'll kill you with his ice breath and, you know, gobble you up with his 4 stomachs that have teeth in them. He'll kill anyone and there's no way to stop him. And then next minute, Blick Block, the frost dragon, has come to life and is killing all the kids in Hawkins. Frankly, it makes no sense to me that they'd continue playing, because the game doesn't seem that fun. I don't think there's any video game fun enough for me to continue playing if the villain of that game came to life and murdered several of my friends. I love Super Smash Brothers, but if Master Hand, the villain from Super Smash Brothers, who is a living hand, he's a living, essentially, glove, right? I love Super Smash Bros, but if Master Hand came to life and flicked one of my friends across the earth and killed him, I would immediately stop playing that game and be like, I don't think it's... If someone was like, Mike, you want to play Smash? I would say no, because every time I play that game, the villain comes to life and kills my friend. The Stranger Things kids, they don't have the same regard for common sense as me. Anyway, now that actually, I just wanted to say, I've been made to say this, that rave that I just did about just stop playing D&D actually originated from one of my friends that I was watching Stranger Things with, who said, just stop playing D&D. And I was like, that's funny. I'm going to talk about that on my podcast. A couple more things that I need to talk about. Last week on the show, of course, I talked about the character of Donnie from the Wild Thornberrys. A character who just speaks like that in every episode of this Nickelodeon show and is voiced by Flea, the bassist from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Admittedly, I copped a lot of backlash for saying that it was really surprising that Flea did this and that Flea appeared in Obi-Wan Kenobi, the show, as well. Copped a lot of backlash from listeners, including one of our favourite new listeners of the show, Radio Ryan Adams. Welcome to the radio family, Radio Ryan Adams. If you don't remember, I'll start his email here. Hey Mike, it's Radio Ryan Adams from Denver.
Denver sucks ass.
Told you I'd play it every time you write into the show, but appreciate that you still do it. I believe Radio Ryan Adams is 50 or maybe late 40s or something like that and listens to the show all the way from Denver, which is awesome.
Denver sucks ass.
Yes, it does. When you were talking about Flea acting in other things, I was positive that you were going to talk about how he was in one of the greatest movies of all time, The Big Lebowski, as a nihilist. Have never seen it. Don't know what it's about. Obviously, I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. Should put it on the list. Would not have guessed that Flea was in it because I don't know anyone that's in that movie. He goes on. At the very least, you would know that he was in 2 of the Back to the Future movies. Did not know that. And at the same time, and this might get me into a lot of trouble, I do not think I have ever seen to completion any Back to the Future movie. I know the story beats, but I just don't think, because they used to always be on TV, but I do not think I have ever seen the movies, like sat down and just watched Back to the Future 1, 2, and 3. I know he goes back in time and sleeps with his own grandmother because Futurama did an episode that just echoed that. And I know that there's the Chuck Berry thing where Marty McFly plays the Johnny Be Good song. And I know that the first movie ends with "We've got to go back to the future," but I genuinely do not think I don't think I've seen. Everyone says, "Oh, Back to the Future, flying cars." I don't think I've even seen that. I don't think I've seen. Maybe I've just seen one. I should watch them, but I genuinely haven't seen any of them, so would not have known that Flea was in them. I know the almanac, and the guy steals the almanac from the future or from the past or whatever he does. I do know that plot point, but yeah. I also know that there is a band called McFly, who is named after Marty McFly, and I also think that Marty McFly is a very cool name, just for a bit of my personal thoughts on the names of the characters in the franchise. And I also know that Rick and Morty is loosely based on the dynamics between Marty McFly and the Doctor, Doc, whatever his name is. Anyway, any Back to the Future fans, and I assume there's a lot of them listening, are going to hate me for this. At the very least, blah, 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 blah. But no, this is Radio Ryan Adams speaking. But no, you reference some weird Nickelodeon cartoon from the late 90s. Welcome to my life, Ryan. It's super fun having one-way conversations with you. I hope you talk about how they replaced the actor for Will on Stranger Things 4 with Oliver Tree. I think this is a reference to how the character Will in Stranger Things 4's hairstyle resembles the electro-punk artist Oliver Tree's hairstyle. Possibly. He's really good. I'll talk about him at some point. Thanks for making me feel old. The only song I have recognized in your segment, Songs You Forgot Existed, has been the one your dad used to listen to in the car, which was All the Things She Said by Tattoo. Yeah, it's awesome we have you as a listener. I love hearing from you, so please write in any time. Ryan Adams.
Denver sucks ass.
Also got a message in from Radio John the Movie Guy. He simply said, Flea has starred in loads of movies and shows, so he's never caught me off guard after the first couple times seeing him in movies. I guess I just always find it weird when... I mean, I asked for examples, but I just always found it really weird when musicians and people who aren't usually in movies just pop up in movies. It was the same thing as, like I said, when Bill Burr appears in Mandalorian, I was like, what? Surely not. Surely not Bill Burr. I'm sure there's heaps of other examples, but yeah, sorry guys. The Donnie, I stand by Donnie, to me, is Flea's most iconic role. Lots of people responded to the TikTok and Instagram being like, I had no idea that Flea was the voice of Donnie. But there you go. There you go. Okay. We have a couple more things, including a little adventure I want to start. But before we get into that, let us do my personal favorite new segment on the show. And it is called this. It's Radio Mike's Songs You Forgot Existed. Oh, I forgot about that song. It is Songs You Forgot Existed by me, Radio Mike. This is our first listener submitted song that you forgot existed. Now, I've asked, like, so many people have submitted them, so I've just been doing my own for a while, but I decided this one comes in from one of our Patreon members, Patrio Christina with a K. Welcome to the radio family, Patrio Christina with a K. She has sent this one in. Now, I want to disclaim, because a lot of people are sending in songs for... This is a hotly debated segment at the moment. It's looking possible to become the next Rhyme Crime. Because I think it was Patrio Scooter who wrote into the show saying, I think people are getting confused between songs you forgot existed and songs you haven't heard in a while or songs you don't remember or something like so I want to stress this segment is if you hear the song and you're like, oh yeah, this song, if that's your response, like it doesn't have to be you haven't heard it in a while. It's just a song where you're like, oh yeah, this song, what the hell? Like that's kind of the response we're looking for. Right? Like you can, if the song starts and you just immediately start singing along, but you're like, oh yeah, this song, that still counts. I think the response we're looking for is, oh yeah, this song. Oh yeah, this song. Oh yeah, this song. They all count. So just if that helps at all. So can't stress this enough. This one comes in from Radio Christina with a K. And again, lots of people send songs in that I personally did not forget existed. But then I'm like, yeah, but other people might have. Right? Someone sent in Too Deep by Sum 41. 'Cause I'm in too deep and I'm trying to keep up above in my head. You all know it. Instead of going under. That is a song that I will never forget existed because that was like the first ever pop punk song I fell in love with when I was like 8 years old, when it was on the soundtrack for Cheaper by the Dozen with Steve Martin. So I will never forget that song. That song plays in my head on repeat every day. But, you know, some of you send in songs that I haven't forgotten existed and I'm like, oh, I guess other people might have. And then some of you send in songs that I've never heard of. And I'm like, okay, well, you can't forget it existed if you never knew it existed in the first place. But then again, maybe if I listen to them, I'll be like, oh yeah, this song. So who knows? Anyway, Christina with a K, Quack, wrote this, sent this one in. So just stressing, I do remember this existed, but Christina with a K suggested this might get a lot of you. So let's dive into it. All right. This is our first listener-submitted Songs You Forgot Existed. As I said before, personally, I do remember this song and didn't forget it existed, but I've misspoke. It's been submitted by one of you. Anyway, I fucked this up. Here you go. This is the song. Let me know if you remember, or let me know if you forgot that this song existed. Definitely went over. Here it is. We got there. There you go, guys. It's Sam Sparro's absolute classic, Black and Gold. So, did you forget it existed? That's right, it's Sam Sparro's song Black and Gold, classic song. And like, I get how this one could be a song you forgot existed. Personally, I don't think I forgot this existed because I don't like regularly think about this song, but I think the reason I'll never forget this song existed is because this guy, Sam Sparrow, who admittedly, like, I don't believe has had a hit since this song, which may have been 2007, 2008, maybe 2009, around that time. I remember he was on Rove, which was a late night talk show here in Australia back in the early 2000s. Well, in the Audies, I guess, or the noughties is what we call them now. Yeah, he was on an episode of Rove, and I think he's Australian, and he just talked about this song. And the reason I always remember it is because Rove asked him, "Oh, is it a love song?" And he said, "No, it's not a love song. It's about God. Like, it's a song about questioning the universe and questioning the world. And that's why if you're not really here, then the stars don't even matter." Blah blah blah. Like it's like a philosophical if you're not really here. But I guess you could interpret it as romantic as well. But yeah, let me know if you forgot this one existed, and I will give you the results next week. Results for all the things she said from last week were, I think it was around 19% forgot it existed, and apparently it has had a resurgence on TikTok recently. Okay. One very quick thing that I have a friend that's going to come in very soon to talk about this, because this is a adventure I want to start. So I will record this with him and I will insert that audio here. All right, I am joined on the show by friend of the show and friend of me, Alex. Welcome to the show, Alex.
It's great to be here.
People may remember Alex because the listeners did hear when your artwork was stolen by Elon Musk.
Yeah, I was pretty angry about that.
Has the fallout of that continued between you and Elon?
I do get like a trickle of followers still from that.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
So it kind of has paid off a bit.
A little bit, yeah.
not in the way you wanted a Tesla.
Not really. Yeah.
Now, I've brought you on the show this week for another reason.
Mm-hmm.
You know what it is, but we're going to explain it. Because we both live here in Kensington, and maybe 2 or 3 mornings a week, you and I meet at the local coffee shop. We get a coffee, we go for a quick walk.
Yeah.
Now, you believe you've uncovered a conspiracy to do with you in the coffee shop.
Yes.
Do you want to tell the listeners what you think is going on? It's quite amusing.
For most of my life, whenever I order a coffee, I say, I would like a soy cappuccino. Every time, all the time. I'm lactose intolerant. I've never not said that. And one time, when I was having a really bad day, like, you know, like a bad day where you feel like you're like hungover bad. So I was like feeling like shit, and I go up and I go, I'll have a soy cap. Okay, cool, I pay for it. And then I get like a regular cappuccino. So I drink it and I automatically know, and I'm like, I already know, like I'm like, this is milk.
Your insides are rupturing.
Yes, I'm gonna feel sick. So I go back and I'm like, hey, I asked for like a soy cappuccino, and the girl just goes, no, you didn't.
And so we'll pause there and say it's often, most of the time, it's the same person serving us, making the coffee.
It's usually the same lady.
Yeah. Who is a very nice
She's
lady.
a lovely lady.
Yeah.
Well, not anymore. But that's
that's
part of
explain
it.
that. Explain what happened. So, explain your theory.
So she just goes, no, you didn't ask for a soy cappuccino. I'm like, oh yeah, I did. And she goes, no, you didn't say that. And I was feeling so crap. I was just like, all right, yeah. And I just paid for another one. I put my card out, and like, I guess from that point on, she has a vendetta against me.
Okay, so this is the part that I believe you.
Yes.
But I do find this amusing because you have said to me for the past few months, we still go there, but a few days ago I was like, let's go to Premises, and I'll bleep the name of the cafe, but let's go, we'll get a coffee. And you said, look, I just know the lady who makes the coffee doesn't like me because of that soy cap incident.
Sometimes I go like, oh, hey, can we go somewhere else?
Yeah.
So,
that's the next thing, is that now you think that she deliberately makes you bad coffees.
They taste shit. I know she's doing it. I'm not crazy.
So Alex thinks that the lady who makes the coffees is deliberately making his soy caps bad because of 1 or 2 awkward incidents around your order.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, can I add to the story?
yeah.
So-
of course. Give as much evidence as you have.
There's another barista there who really likes me, and he was telling me the secrets of how to make a really tasty soy cappuccino.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to divulge it here because it's a secret.
And that guy is a really friendly guy. They're all friendly.
They're all
there.
friendly.
We do maintain
Except for
that.
one
No,
lady.
well, I think she's friendly, but you.
She makes a face at me.
That's the
She
thing.
does
Okay,
make
so-
Okay, next time we go,
there wasn't
look at her
like-
face and see if she makes a face at me. She
there
does.
actually, I admit, this is why I'm inclined to believe you. There was an incident in which Alex ordered coffee and for me and him. You paid, thanks again.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
And me and Alex were like talking while waiting for the coffees and we were kind of distracted. And because we were distracted, this barista had to call your name several times because she was like, Alexander?
No.
Oh.
Wait a second. Alexandra. She calls me Alexandra now. I'm not joking. Alexandra, I
okay.
fucking swear to God.
I don't know about that, but I do know.
No, she has started doing that as well.
Okay,
I hate
but
it.
I do know that, like, that time she was like, Alexander. And that's the part that makes me categorically believe you that she doesn't like you.
Yes, she doesn't like me.
And now it's so bad that you don't want to get coffee there.
Because it's shit. I don't want to have bad coffee.
So this is what I want to do in the next few weeks. There's a
Okay.
couple experiments we need to do. The first one is, I think I go in alone and order a soy cap, which is not my normal order.
Yes.
And then I give you the soy. You're not there, so she doesn't know it's for you. I then give you the soy cap, and you then can discern, is it always bad?
Okay.
Or yeah.
So I'm just thinking as you're talking, maybe you should order one, and then I go in not long after you and order it, so we have them next to each other, so I can kind of like one-to-one taste test.
Yeah, that's a
All
great
right, we'll
idea.
do that.
The other
We
experiment.
both have full-time jobs, by the way. We don't just go.
Yeah, we both have proper jobs. So
We're not just sitting outside this place going like, I'm gonna fucking scheme. I'm gonna get her.
The thing about me and Alex is, and we discussed this the other day, we both have jobs in which we can be walking around Kensington at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday and just be drinking coffee.
Yeah.
And then talking about this. But then the other experiment is, so the other guy who makes the coffee that you said makes a really good coffee.
Yes.
I think what we have to do somehow in the coming weeks is get one soy cup from him, one soy cup from her, and compare those.
That's hard. That's a hard
harder.
one.
It is harder, but it might happen. So in the next few weeks, that's what we're going to do. We have to get to the bottom of this conspiracy.
Definitely.
And so are you happy to join and finally get to the bottom of this?
I can't wait to prove her wrong. I hope she gets fired.
All right, thanks.
No, I don't hope she gets fired.
We will update everyone next week. I can't wait for this either. There you go. We will conduct that experiment next week. Now, one quick email. Obviously, last week, Radio Nation Nathan Fisher, he wrote into the podcast asking me to convince him to take a holiday to Melbourne instead of Sydney with his wife. And I told him to go to Sydney, and because Melbourne as a holiday sucks. And he responded and said, just listen to the pod. Damn, what a plot twist. Thanks for the advice, Mike. So I believe they're going to Sydney. I then put it out to you guys about, because I've lived in Melbourne my whole life. It's a nice city, but I don't know what you would do here as a tourist. I genuinely don't. And I asked you guys, like, what is there to do in Melbourne if you've been a tourist in Melbourne, if you've come to Melbourne for a holiday? What did you do? Because I can't even begin to think about what you might do. And Radio Beth, maybe Patreon Beth. Apologies, Beth. I'm not sure if you're on the Patreon. I think you might be, but welcome to the radio family. There's that sound effect. Radio Beth said, hey, Mike, I've been listening to Harry Potter audiobooks, so I've got a bit behind on all the podcasts. That's totally fair. That sounds like a much better thing to listen to, especially if it's the Stephen Fry edition of the Harry Potter audiobooks, which are amazing. I caught up to the latest step today while recovering from a night out last night. I am too old for this now. My whole day was wasted. True, I get 2-day hangovers all the time these days. Sometimes they're worth it. Most of the time they're not. Very, very infrequently they are worth it though. Anyway, I am one of those people who enjoys holidays to Melbourne. Then in brackets, though I haven't been to Sydney, so I can't compare the two. I've been 4 times, I think, sometimes with a purpose, such as work or to see Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, but other times it was just because. I really enjoy just walking around Melbourne, so normally go on walking tours, museums, plus all the usual touristy things, and usually a bit of geocaching too. I just like the vibe of Melbourne. Okay, cool. Beth, when you say the usual touristy things, like I'm honestly asking, what are the usual touristy things of Melbourne? Is it Flinders Street Station and Federation Square? Because like, I guess maybe because I've grown up in Melbourne, I find those two things to be holistically unremarkable. Is that what the touristy things are? Like the Yarra River, South Bank? Should I go on a walking tour of Melbourne? I'll make Pat, the producer of this show, go with me because I don't want to do it for myself. Should I do a Melbourne City walking tour and just pretend I'm from Tasmania or something just to see what we do? Maybe I'll do that. Also, Beth, I don't know what geocaching is. It sounds cool, but I have no idea what that is. So write in an update to those two questions. Okay, just before we finish, let's do this. The plug. I think I popped up on this week's Hamish and Andy, so you can check that out. I did an episode of Harry Potter and the Boys last week with the legends from the 1001 Songs That Make You Want to Die podcast, which I've been on 4 times, so go and check that out. Here's a little grab of a funny moment from that.
Harry apparated Hermione to his office where she explained that Gorby Bolonsky had been killed in the Team Wizard tournament.
Gorby Bolonsky has died! How? How could this happen? Oh, dear Lord, this is horrible. This is the worst day of my life. Poor Gorby. Poor sweet Gorby. Poor sweet innocent Gorby. Taken from us all too soon. And to think I could have stopped it. If only I wasn't stuck in the forest Tibetan. Obviously, Tibetan feel good. But I should have been there for Gorby. Oh, my sweet Gorby. I'll never forget him, said Harry.
Obviously, Tibetan feel good.
He's so like wound up by the idea of masturbating, he forgets how to speak.
As well as that, I was a guest on a podcast by a fine young lad named Sam O'Brien. That podcast is called Content and Capable. He invited me on to talk all things adulting, and we had a very nice chat. I thought it was very insightful, and I think it's a really good podcast, and he's had some really cool guests. So if you do want to hear, I have a playlist on Spotify of all my guest appearances on other people's podcasts. So that's in the description to this podcast. If you'd like to binge me, hear more of these dulcet tones, definitely go and listen to that. I also, this is coming out Wednesday. On Thursday or Friday this week, I've decided I want to do more bonus content on the main pod. Of course, on the Patreon, which I implore you to please jump on for $1 a month. It's really not that much money, and it does go a long way. Right now, there's an Overflow podcast up, and there's a Pat and Mike. There will be Pat and Mike episodes coming. They are so funny. There's a huge back catalogue. There's hours of content there, all on the Patreon exclusively. But I'm also going to do, maybe once a fortnight, I'm going to do a couple bonus things. So this Friday, I recorded a little bonus pod where I review all of the segment openers to segments on this show throughout the entire run of the show. So if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, I review them and I explain why I made them the way I made them, which might and when I say the segment intros, I'll just find like an old one. For example, I like this one here, which we haven't done for a while. So I explain how, like, all of them, the thought behind making them, what I thought of the segments, whether I want to bring those segments back. Like, there's been so many segments on the show, and I found the folder with all the openers of every segment I've ever done on this show since season 1. And I was like, I'm just going to play them and review them. So that's a bonus that'll go up this week. I'm also going to do a bonus pod in a few weeks, which is a best of me on other people's podcasts. I'm going to do some bonus of like best raves of 2022. Of course, I do my Trending with DD on 3AW compilations once a month as well. And I used to do on YouTube a movie vlog where I talk about every movie I've watched in the month that was. I'm going to bring that back in pod form. So that's going to be another bonus pod that you'll be able to listen to on this feed. My monthly movie wrap-up vlog, because I like, audio log, because I like talking about movies, and this podcast is a good place to do that. So yeah, just more bonus content for you guys, just more content. Every fortnight or so, there'll be a little bonus on a Thursday or Friday. And I think that is pretty much it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. As always, again, the Patreon is there. One-off donations, paypal.me/itsRadioMike. Going into a very busy time soon, I will explain on the overflow this week. So if you want to know about a little career change I'm making in the next few weeks, then jump on the overflow now over on the Patreon. Otherwise, I'll speak to you next week. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I am just in a really anxious position at the moment where my anxiety is flaring up a little bit more than it usually has in the last few years. So I'm doing my best to stay on top of everything, and I appreciate all of your guys' support as always. So thanks for listening. My name's been Radio Mike. This has been The Inside of My Mind. Love you long time and also short time. See you guys. Thank you so much. This episode of 20th Century Boy was brought to you by Radio Mike on Patreon. If you just finished the podcast and want to hear me talk even more, head to patreon.com/Radio Mike to get access to the TCB Overflow podcast, an extra podcast every week, and the Pat and Mike Show, where me and producer Pat talk behind the scenes of making this show. The Patreon is overflowing with content. We'll see you there. This podcast was a Radio Mike original production. Head to radiomike.com.au to check out all our other content, stay up to date at radio.mike on Instagram, and get in touch, radiomikepod@gmail.com.